it's important not to
Yeah.
say anything that could be identifiable in any way, isn't it?
Absolutely. Hold on,
So it feels safe. Yeah.
Right, we're going live on YouTube, just so you know. Just so you know. And right.
Yeah, it's important.
Let me just close down Safari. Do my usual stuff. Just as you do. Just like that. Right, okay.
And you do it so well.
Morning, everyone. Anyone that's going to be watching. I'm just gonna share all this and chat amongst yourselves.
Chat. So how are things going for you two ladies, Kate and Susie?
Yeah, good. I'm in tax return mode, so it's like very exciting.
Oh, yes.
Just number crunching and going through receipts from all last year, and it's all good fun. It's all quite. I find it a little depressing, like all the taxes that we pay. Everything is sort of focusing on all of that money that's going out rather than the sort of abundance thing. So I'm glad it's just a few days a year that I just do, and then I don't have to think about it for another year. So I'm getting that done. So I'm just been very pleased when it's finished. It's just one of those chores that I find a bit gloomy to do. So almost done, almost.
Oh, good.
Just waiting for the bank to send me some information.
It's Mental Health Awareness Week, by the way, this week as well.
Oh, is it?
So, so this
is that just the UK or is it Europe?
Well, I know UK. I'm not sure.
All year,
not
all
sure.
around the world.
I'm just going to write some of this down. Hypnosis. Yeah, I think the only way with the whole tax thing is just sending it some positive love to say thanks for doing this, and this for me.
The way I see it, it's a nice problem to have when you're paying tax. It's a nice problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
It shows that you've got some income. So I'm grateful for having to pay tax. Sometimes I just focus on what I haven't got rather than what I have. So it's like I just like to get it done and it's gone.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. And I never used to save up for tax. And so it was just a time of stress and horror because what if I didn't have enough? And then I read the book Profit First, where you apportion every bit of income that comes in, you apportion it into. I've got several accounts, quite a lot of accounts that it goes into. Well, now there's no problem, and now I've never saved. And I do now, and I love it. I love saving. Saving is the best thing. So I oversave. For tax, and then it's a good thing when it's time to pay because there's some left.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, and I never touch it. I said to my sister. My sister said, "Oh, I'm impressed that you save for your taxes." I always said I oversave, and I treat it like a leper. I don't touch it. And she said, "Oh, you see, I treat mine like a lottery win, my money, like a lottery win and spend it as fast as I can."
God bless. Oh, my darling. That's definitely it. Hold on, let me share this.
How are you, Susanna? How are you? How's your week been?
Good, very good. I'm advancing. I'm at the 4th module of my course, which is the most interesting for me because it's about the mind and the psychology of Ayurveda, and I love it. So I'm really having lots of pleasure, and I can put visuals in the videos, and I can help using these NLP tools that we have, to kind of allow the information to go directly through the unconscious, through the images that I'm using. So it's lots of fun. It's been, I was calculating, I started, I think, in June last year, July last year. So it's a long-term project. And probably I'll need another month or so because I'm going to move at the end of the month to have it completely finished. And then I'm going to add more modules. I want to add more like a yoga for your type and beauty treatments on how to take care of your body, of your face, of the skin, using Ayurvedic treatments. So this is the beginning, so I'm really excited about it. But I can't wait to have it finished so I can launch it as is. So then, after that, I have the time to.
Yeah, it's great. And then when you launch, like I just finished mine, it's just you learn so much from that because I've just finished my 12-week one. And I learned so much. It's like, and now I'm thinking how I might change it for the future, or do I just do it again as it is? Because it was good, but I could. There are so many things that I can do now. So I'm just trying to think about what to do next, having learned all that. So But it's so exciting. You learn so much from doing it. It's
True.
So much.
wonderful.
We always
I
learn.
definitely learned as much as everyone else did, I think.
Learn every day, don't we? We learn
Yeah,
every day.
absolutely. I say all our interactions, like in a session, I learned kind of almost as much as they do, I think.
Of course, and that's actually leading us really, really well into today. So I want to say good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. So all over the web, we are spreading. And God, there's so many things to say today. Firstly, I want to say that the podcast is going to be starting advertised. I'm going to release the adverts and the write-up pretty much after this talk. So the first live podcast is going to be released on the 28th of May. So it's really exciting times, and we are all in this together. Everyone that you've seen on these amazing flipping these are like podcasts, but your YouTube podcasts. So anything that you've seen, we are basically taking them and we're putting them into different podcasts and releasing them every week. So condensed versions, and then you can come back to YouTube and come and see us, the whole thing. So you can, it's like a journey into it. So today, it is Mental Health Awareness Week in the UK. I think it's in the UK only. I'm not sure about the rest of the world, but I'm sure you can comment into the comments if it is anywhere else all over the world. But actually it was Linda, because we always think about what topics do we want to discuss. And Linda came up, she's a little genius that she is, and she said, how about the topic, does this stuff really work? And I thought, oh my God, that is actually a brilliant, brilliant topic, because there are so many therapies out there, so many. And I'm so lucky to be surrounded, including today and throughout this last year and a bit, with some of the most incredible people that are so experienced in these amazing therapies. But a lot of people just don't know about these therapies, and even that they exist, and they don't know what one's right for them. You know, and everyone might be experiencing different challenges in their life, and fear, which is the one thing that can really hold us back mostly throughout our lives as well. So what do? You're in this whole maze of possibility. There's a whole world of possibility that you can fix yourself. But what do? It's like you're in a sweet shop and there's a million different sweets, but what one do you really want? So unless you know what they taste like, or you've heard about what they taste like, or you can maybe experience a little bit of them, how do you know? So today, I wanted to do a deeper dive into what we actually do as therapists, different therapies. And today we've got, oh my gosh, so we have a mixture of amazing therapies to look into. And we've got things like, let me just get my paper, we've got EFT, NLP, hypnotherapy, emotrance, neurographica. I know some of these things you've never heard of because I hadn't either, but this is where I learn. Ayurveda, yoga. I forgot about that one, yoga. Access consciousness. So all of these different therapies, they are real, they exist. And so today we're going to be just talking a little bit of how they work, why they work, what you do, and why it's important, and how it can help you. So many people know me, I am an NLP master practitioner and a clinical hypnotherapist and a life coach. And I work very much with manifestation as well, just as a general a general thing in my life. Manifestation is key for me, and I do it naturally. So with NLP, you're working with your neuro-linguistic programming. That's what it stands for. You're working with your brain, and it's to do with your language and the way that you're programmed, what you do every single day on a daily basis, the things that you do, and how it can be changed. And with NLP, you work a lot with your subconscious mind, because a lot of the things that we hold on to throughout our past years are carried with us and they're brought into the present. And so with NLP, it's the magic tool that I found really helped me incredibly, from all the things that I'd experienced throughout the years, and really helped me clear the baggage That's all I can relate to. It just helped me clear that baggage, and just allowed me. It didn't get rid of it. It didn't get rid of it in the way that I don't remember any of it, but it cleared those painful, heavy emotions and the feelings of self-worth, and the lack of self-worth, shall I say. So for me, NLP was an incredible tool, and everyone on this page, on this podcast today, is our NLP practitioners and master practitioners. So this is how we've all kind of met, and we're all hypnotherapists too. So we work with subconscious mind, and we work with suggestions, and really it gets down to what you do, because it's all down to you at the end, and you're being guided and suggested different ways, maybe subconsciously and maybe consciously. But it's taking a conscious note as well in NLP of how you can change things, maybe through your words, you know, and different patterns that you're going through in your everyday life, changing things to see change, because we can change anything. So today I'm going to start. Where do we start? Because let's ask Kate, NLP, what's it done for you, and how can you explain it? Because sometimes I'm a bit wordy, but you're quite concerned.
I think it's kind of what it means to you, isn't it? So you have your meaning, we all have our own meaning of what it does, but it is really going into the subconscious part of ourselves, and just looking at maybe, you know, why do you do what you do? So we're always looking. When I get a client, I'm saying, well, what are you doing, and when do you do it? And then we're looking into what's causing that, what's underneath it, that behavior, because there's always like a thought or a belief or some sort of emotion that's stuck or something like that. So we're looking at what's underneath. So I'm kind of like exploring, going into this subconscious part of themselves, and then we're just seeing what's there, and then the key thing for me is like doing it to their own speed. So that's important too. So we're not sort of diving in and sort of looking at all these past terrible memories and sort of causing all sorts of heartache and emotional turmoil, because it's very important that you do that as slowly as the client is able to cope with it. And we might just go and have a quick look and then come back out again, you know. So that's part of it. So it's not just, so I get a lot of people that are quite scared for their first session, and then after the sessions, oh, if only I'd known it wasn't going to be so scary, you know. I've actually quite enjoyed it. It was a little uncomfortable, obviously, to go and do this work, but to revisit maybe emotions and that are stuck, but you've got to feel them to release them, but you can do it very slowly. And so it is. And so people, even with very severe trauma that I work with, you know, you don't have to visit the memory. You don't have to relive anything. No, it's just a case of going in a way that's safe for the client and secure for them. So they're always feeling that way. So it's like working with the subconscious. And for me, it's like, I always want to know why. So I'm a questioner, you know, why do I do that? And I went through a lot of sort of severe stress in my late 20s, so kind of like almost 30 years ago now, and nobody could help me. I went to doctors. I had every scan you could think of, my brain scans, everything, every single blood test, x-rays, all sorts of things. I went to see a psychiatrist, and she actually said to me, I'm sorry, I can't help you. There's nothing wrong with you. I can't help you. I thought, well, I'm suffering. I feel almost suicidal, and you nobody can help me. Because I was going through the stress. I was like up to here with stress. I couldn't release it. I didn't know how to relax. I wasn't even breathing properly, because I was breathing in a very panicky way all the time. So I wasn't getting enough oxygen into my brain, and I was suffering all sorts of things, and nobody could help. I mean, I know that was a long time ago now, and people are a bit more enlightened nowadays, maybe. But now, if I'd gone to a doctor now, I think they would just give me a load of anti-anxiety medication. And thank goodness they weren't around back then. So I then said, well, okay, if no one can help me, I'm going to have to do it for myself. And being a research scientist, I then dove into research, and I tried everything, every therapy there is out there, Alexander technique, and all, you know, to try and relax and to change the way I was walking and breathing and being in the world. And I did yoga, which was very helpful for me because it was like a calming thing, as well as getting into my body, because I was so in my head, I wasn't in my body anymore. So I tried all sorts of things. And the short story is I got to a point where I knew why. I actually found out I was insecure. I couldn't believe it, because I thought I was this strong, independent person. And actually, I was quite deeply insecure. I didn't know that. Where did that come from? I knew all these things. I knew why I was behaving the way I was and how I felt and everything else. So I knew I had all this stuff stuck in there. I knew I had a lot of blame for my childhood and that about my parents and stuff, and a lot of anger stuck in there and a lot of sadness too. And I knew it, but I didn't know how to release it.
Yeah.
What do I do now? Okay, now I know all this stuff. So just knowing the why isn't enough either. You know, all the self-help books, you can do all the self-help you like, but how do you actually change it? And it wasn't really until I got into NLP and hypnotherapy that I really, really made some massive shifts. I got past the why and actually just got it changed. And that was the thing. So as soon I was very, very interested in parts, people like things like voice dialogue and Gestalt therapy and stuff like that. So I researched a lot of that, did a lot of sort of training in that. And then I thought, this isn't quite it. And I knew there was something more, and that's where NLP sort of fitted that bill. It just did all the things I needed, all the things I knew that I needed to sort were in there. And I trained, so having trained in it, as you know, when we train, we actually have to do it all on ourselves. So we all work with each other and work. So we have to clear everything out so that we can then be present for other people. So we're not carrying our own baggage into sessions. And so having done that, it was a massive, massive breakthrough for me. I cleared so much stuff and I learned techniques that I've now been able to do for myself now. So I do it for myself. And then sharing that with others. So like you, I did NLP practitioner, then master practitioner, and then I did the clinical hypnotherapy with on top of that as well. So because we know that the hypnotherapy is a really beautiful thing to mix with NLP, because you're then, having done the change work, the hypnotherapy can kind of just like cement it in. Yeah. And so the subconscious just accepts those changes, and they can just kind of like be programmed in a different way. So we kind of use the two together. And then recently I've done the Neurographica stuff, which is the next thing, which I'll talk about in a minute.
We'll talk about that really soon.
That was my journey.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Absolutely. So Susie, let's go to Susie. So what would you say the benefits to someone of NLP would be? Like what do you reckon they can get from it? Because we work a lot with the younger you, don't we? The younger you, and we go back a lot. What would you say would be like the benefits of an NLP session?
Well, benefits, it's not quite the word I would use. I think you just save years and years of therapy by using NLP. I mean, what we used to do before, just analyzing and looking and, just talking about it, while you just go in there and fix it. And I find it extraordinary. And in my work, as I was working with Ayurveda as a therapist, NLP came in right at the right moment and in the right way, because it helped me deal with the underlying emotional cause of the physical problem that the persons were dealing with. And also it helped me with one aspect, which is very, very important. See, many people come to see me because they want to convert into a sort of a healthy lifestyle. And so they're looking into Ayurveda to find out ways into how to eat better, and how to take care of the body in a better way, and how to heal certain tendencies, and how to prevent certain diseases when they have some background in their families with certain tendencies towards disease. And what I found the most difficult in this particular work that I was doing before NLP was to have the people actually do those changes, because we can sit together for an hour and we discuss, you should eat this and this and this and this, and then you should cut off on this, on that. And in the morning you should do this. And then what I've noticed, and that was my frustration as a practitioner, was that people would come back later, a year later, or 2 years later, or 6 months later, and they say, well, did you do those changes? No. And it's not just about knowing what you have to do, it's about having your unconscious participate to that. So I think this is how it gets easier to implement certain changes, because I'm doing also coaching. You want, and deep down, you know what you're doing wrong, but deep down, you know that you could do better. deep down, you know that you could be a better person, doing things differently, but you still get trapped into this anger and rage episodes, or you can get trapped into that anxiety. And you know what you have to do. You need to take that herb and you need to change the way you are eating. But how do you get yourself to do that? And this is where NLP answered the question from this particular perspective, my professional. It could help people actually program these things. So as of tomorrow, you don't have to think, oh my God, I have to wake up at 6 and I have to eat this and that. You program it, and then tomorrow you just wake up and you do it as if you've been doing it, for your entire life. So I think this is what it is, using your capacities as a human being. This is a tremendous, and I love Bandler for that. I really respect these two guys that came up with this. I think this is, if you want, it's part of that eternal knowledge. They discovered, just like science explores, the universal law, like how this world functions and works. I think they really pointed it. They really managed to find out how it works. It's a way to talk to your unconscious mind and make it work for you in the most wonderful way, rather than have it run in the background and bring you into these cyclical situations that we're all complaining about. Because that's what most people come and complain about, right? It's this cyclical thing. I always have the same relationships. I'm always eating the same crap, and I'm always getting into the same scenarios. And this cyclicity that frustrates us a lot. And this is a way to break through those cycles. NLP is, for me, the best tool for that.
Oh, that's brilliant. And we're going to come on to you again in shortly for the Ayurveda and also the access consciousness, which I don't even know about. So I'm quite excited about that.
You don't know about it?
No, I don't. I'm going to learn. You see, today's education for me as well. So, Linda, does this really work? How? And does it? How can we say it really works?
Oh gosh, yeah, well it does. So so maybe it's time for my story.
Yeah,
My success story to begin with. Does it work? So I've worked with clients who have been literally at their wits' end, who have been having suicidal thoughts, not necessarily planning, but having suicidal thoughts, thinking they would be better off dead. And just with the first consultation, I have had clients who text me afterwards and say, I feel amazing. And that's just with the consultation, which begins to shift things a little bit. So that is just a tiny bit of what NLP can do before we go into the full work, which will find the root cause. What I've noticed is there are two types of therapies. Therapies fall into two types. There are those that intend for you to keep the problem, but learn how to manage it. And there are those that intend to remove the problem. And NLP falls into that. All of my therapies that I use fall into that second category. It's not to say that it suits everyone. Some people are unable to make progress sometimes, or it might be the wrong time for them. They may not be quite ready to let everything go, or it may be they need a different process. But all I know is I've never been in anything for the long game. I like to see instant results that come fast and that last. That's what I like. That's what I like about NLP. And I too have a history. Probably all of us here, we've struggled with things in life that have led us to this moment where we're helping other people. And all I was given was was given drugs, I was given antidepressants. I had a phobia of dying at one point. It's a very stressful time in my life. And I was given antidepressants for that, which then coming off that was mishandled and caused me another few years of anxiety and depression. I didn't know where to look then. It's a long time ago, and I didn't know where else to look. Except, no, do you know, I did know during a later part of my life, but still when I was suffering from anxiety and depression and panic attacks, seemed randomly, I actually got my hands on an NLP video so long ago. It was a course of do it yourself, learn for yourself how to do NLP on yourself. And I started to look at it and dismissed it. And I thought, oh, this is all far too complex and nitpicky and difficult. No, I don't think this is the right thing at all. It's got to be easier than this. That is what I thought then. Oh my God, if I'd only watched the whole flipping thing, I would have saved myself another 2, maybe another 3 long, several years run-ins with anxiety and depression. I'm sorry about that now. But then it came to me with where I paid to be trained as a professional. And then, of course, it's not complex. It's not far too difficult. It is the fast way to get results. And I've also found that it can suit quite a lot of people, because it is, the way Kate spoke about it, it is gentle. And I do add in, usually I add in some hypnotherapy, because I think that is what another member of the group of the gentle art of healing. It soothes you, and it just calms you, and it just, as Kate says, it just lets all of your mind know that this is all okay, that it's okay to let go of these things. Because if you're not going to remove the problem by resolving it, you're going to be battling for the rest of your life. Is that really, and struggling and trying to, as Susanna talked about, just trying to change your habits the hard way by just trying to push through. And there was something else that I was thinking of saying as well. I wonder what that was.
It will come to you.
It will come to me, yes, it will come to me.
See, with hypnotherapy, because you're suggesting and you're working with the unconscious mind, it's not, you're never going to do in hypnotherapy anything that you don't want to do. So all these stage shows that you see where people act like chickens and goodness knows what else they do and strip half naked, well, that's because they are allowing themselves to do that. They're allowing that to happen. Anything that you don't want to do, you will never do, because hypnotherapy is a relaxant. It's a trance-like state. And we exist so much of our lives in this trance-like state. When you're watching telly, when you're driving a car, when you're watching an advert and you're kind of like just looking at it, but it's going in there. You might, and the news, my gosh, the news is subliminal as well. You have the news on and you can just like be doing something else, but it's all going in there. So it's so important to be very aware of what is around you and to switch off the stuff that you don't like because it's going in, you know, and that's on a general day-to-day level. But with hypnosis, it takes you to that relaxed level, and you can go deeper as well, just so that, but you're never asleep. You're not asleep. You're just feeling blooming good and you're just relaxed. And it's like someone telling you a story and just suggesting little things to you. It's like when you go to sleep when you're a child and your mum or your dad, if you're lucky enough to have that, and they told you bedtime stories and you just drift off into that most beautiful dream. And it's subconsciously, you just have a really good night's sleep because you're there. And that's what you're doing. You're like washing your subconscious mind. You're washing your soul with goodness and suggestion and the possibility. And
I think it's like somebody just stroking your head as they talk to you, just stroking your mind. I've remembered the other thing I wanted to say.
Yeah.
The reason that Kate spoke about the why am I like this? The reason is because you're set up that way. It's as simple as that. You are set up to be that way. And you are set up by actions that your unconscious mind has taken in the past to protect you. And it has created settings that don't always serve you in once the emergency is over. They often just become a problem they've created. And NLP allows us to go to the settings menu and change those settings, just as easy as that. That's why it's fast and it's why it lasts, because we've changed the settings.
That's brilliant. And we did a lot with the control centre, didn't we, in our trainings, the control room and stuff like that. So that was really interesting, different tools that you can use. So I wanted to just say to Kate, can you sort of maybe guide us through what to expect in an NLP or a hypnotherapy session? What can people expect? Because sometimes people can be scared, you know, as to what might happen. So maybe you could just guide us a little bit through like a session.
Yeah, sure. For me, like now, what my session would be like, I'm not sure about everyone else, but I would get an inquiry normally by email or something, or they come on my website and then they contact me. Can you help? I've got this. Could you help with this? Do you think? Or my child is suffering with this. Can you help? And so then I'll go back and we will talk. We usually have a quick chat online or by phone and talk about what they're struggling with and how I can help them. And then I kind of explain what a session is, like you say. So it's like, because people are quite fearful for the first time, because either one is like, what's happening? Hypnotherapy, am I going to be put in some sort of trance? And what happens if we lose connection online, because everything's online nowadays? Am I going to just be in a trance for the rest of my life because I'm here on my own? And so it's like, well, no, absolutely not. You know, you're totally awake all the time, and at any point you could just get up and walk off if you want to. And beautiful. Now, I love online sessions because also they're in their own place, they feel safe, they're secure, they haven't had to drive a long way. Because the other thing after a session, I always say to people, you're gonna want some time just to sit and be. And so sometimes having to drive an hour home, as some of my clients used to when I did live sessions one-to-one, that was a bit of an issue because they needed to sort of sit and calm because they've been through a lot. They were quite drained, and just to sort of then drive afterwards was hard for them. So I always say to people, when you're going to book a session, make sure it's when you've got to have nothing on in the evening. You're not out off on an amazing party, when it hasn't been a problem with COVID this year, but just make sure that you've just got time for your mind and body just to make space for all the changes that they've made, and just relax and because your mind might want to continue to do a bit of work, and it just might be thinking about things. So I say that to people at the start as well. When you choose a date and a time, make sure it's when you're going to be able to just sit and be for the rest of the day, and nothing very sort of either exciting or stressful to do. And then the actual session itself is we meet online, as it were, now in a Zoom room. I use Zoom, and then I will just at first tell them that they're the boss. Everything is down to them. They choose what we do. I will guide them, but if they don't want to go a certain way, then all they have to do is say, or if something else pops in, then we'll go another way. So and then that they don't have to do anything that they feel uncomfortable. So if it gets too uncomfortable for them, then they just say that's too uncomfortable. And so then we have ways that we can just go in and sort of just look at something and come back out again. You don't have to sort of go dive in and you're sort of almost drowning in this sort of sea of emotion. So we just take it slow. So I explain that to them, and that the fact that the subconscious mind and how that works, and I give them a bit of briefing about that so they know what to expect, and the fact that they can't do it wrong. There's no right or wrong. And so so it's just a case of putting them at their ease. And then I probably would just do a brief, if they're a bit anxious, then do a little relaxation first, just to get their body feeling relaxed.
Yeah.
And then we will just start talking about, well, what's the issue? What do you want? So I will always ask, like, what's their wish? What do they really want from the session?
Yeah.
No matter what they've already done, because we often do a lot of email, because I send a few warm-up exercises for them to do, and we do a bit of an email thing beforehand. So once they've come in, I'll relax them, then they will look at the actual thing that they want. You know, not what they don't want, but what do you want from this? How will you know this session's work for you today? What are you looking for? So I've got that in mind. And then it's a case of just then working with that, whatever it is that we're doing. And we may, normally, it's usually like a package of 3 sessions. I find that works best, unless it's like something like a phobia or an allergy, which I can usually do in 1 session, but just generally it's 3 sessions. So we will work and make a start looking at it, and then the next session will probably go a little deeper. And then, having done the change work, which is more the NLP stuff, and then usually towards the end of the session there'll be like a hypnotherapy ending, where we will just sit and calm and just kind of cement in all those learnings, whatever they've learned about themselves and what changes have been made. They all can just find their place in their mind, in their body, and then we will just talk about what's their future going to be like, what's the next week going to be like until our next session, what's going to be something they might be able to do for themselves now, what do they want to do, and I might make suggestions of what that could be if they can't think of what to do, and then they'll choose something that they want to just work on for the year, the week ahead, and then pick the next session date will be booked in, and then that's pretty much it. And then I also keep in touch in the week, so I say anything that comes up, any odd things that might happen, because I also prepare them for, at the end of a session, you know, that when they come down, there are things like, one, vulnerability hangovers, you know, where I've said something to another person and now I feel, why did I say that? That was just, I don't even like the fact that I shared that with somebody else, you know. So they're going to feel vulnerable having said something, and then they look back and think, oh, now I feel a bit awkward having said that, I wish I hadn't said it out loud or whatever. So I prepare them for that, because it's important they're totally honest in the session and let this out. And the fact that everything is totally confidential, and that's something else that I mentioned at the start, whatever you say is absolutely confidential. It doesn't leave this room. Nobody even knows you've had a session with me unless you tell them. That's down to you. You know, we are bound in the same way as psychiatrists are with our professional code of conduct. So and also the thing that also prepare them for the fact that their body might, because their body's letting go of emotions and things, there may be other things pop up. So suddenly the subconscious mind might start showing them other memories, or they may get just suddenly they just burst into tears for no reason, or anger might come out now because it's been suppressed and now it's being able to come out. So just preparing them for that might happen. And sometimes the body, when it's letting go of stuff, can do funny things, like they might suddenly feel sick or have to rush to the toilet, which I've often had in a session. I've got to go to the toilet a minute because they're letting go, and suddenly they've got to go, and their bowels need to let go too, because in the case of it's just a release.
Yeah. And
that's what they're doing. And so we've been holding on to all this tension, and now they can let it go. So
beautiful.
Sometimes it's that, sometimes it's a headache, sometimes it's just they just don't feel hungry, or it just might be odd things might happen. So I also prepare them for that at the end of the session, just let them know to prepare for, you think that you've just let go of something in your head, but your whole body is making changes too.
Beautiful. Oh, that was really well put. That was really well put, Kate. Well, wonderfully. That's basically what to expect from a session. So you've heard it now. That's pretty much sums it up. I wanted to go to Susie. Susie,
Yeah.
What is Ayurveda? What is it? Because I never even heard of it before I met you. And now it's a whole new world of openness and possibilities. But I mean, I don't think many people will have heard of it. So what does it do? What is it?
Yeah, I'll tell you, but can I just say something before? Because since we talk about does it work?
Yes.
See, there's a couple of reflections that I've had, and this behind this reflection is this whole Ayurveda and you know, the Vedic science and everything else that I put into it. I think in order for it to work, whatever we're doing, whatever therapy we're doing, it has to be in a sort of an alignment or in accordance or in respect to the law, to the universal law. For instance, if I'm expecting my hand to get wet, I need to put it in the water. All right. So if I put it in the water, the hand gets wet. Expecting my hand to get water without putting it in the water, to get wet without putting it in the water would be silly, right? So I think in order for it to work, it has to be a truthful therapy. That means that it's based on some sort of universal truth that is valid today, that will be valid in 300 years from now, and that was valid 1,000 years ago. So this is why probably for me, Ayurveda was such a great discovery. And I think I've always had, since I've been passionate by the truth since I was very young. I loved philosophy and I loved, to find out about how the mind works. This was my passion when I was very young. Probably because I grew up in communism and I wanted to understand what can bring people into this type of monsters in their minds. So I think I've always had this sort of a how would you call it? A detector for truth. I could always vibrate when I could hear some sort of truth, because there's philosophies, and from each philosophy you can take a little bit of aspect of the truth that is there. No philosophy is completely truthful, to my opinion. There's fragments of truth, such as in any therapy there is some truth, and it could be something that is NLP. I find it's kind of 100% accurate and truthful because it works all of the time. So to me, Ayurveda came in a moment of my life when I was suffering from endometriosis. And so I was practicing yoga. I have decided, since the endometriosis is connected to the second chakra, I would work with yoga into healing it. So I had put together for myself some yoga discipline, some yoga practice that I was practicing with every day. And because I went to see a doctor, I was in Canada at that time, who saw me for probably 1 minute and 36 seconds, in which he said, okay, you have endometriosis, take these hormones, go home, we stop your period for a year and then we see what happens. So nothing else. And he told me, you'll never have children. I was quite disappointed with that answer. And so I said, no way, Jose, I'm going to do it my way, my stubbornness. So I went home and I remember taking one of those pills. It was like a big orange pill like this. And I couldn't sleep all night. I woke up in the morning and there was a voice in my head, such as you're unconscious talking or something like that, but a bit different from what I usually have, which said like this: you cannot correct an imbalance by creating another one.
Nice.
Yeah. So I woke up with that idea. I said, of course, maybe this hormonal therapy would help with the endometriosis, but will create other imbalances in my body, which I'm not willing to go through. I don't want to grow a mustache. I don't want to do anything of the sort. I was scared of that. It was just a joke.
I know.
So then I put this discipline, this practice of yoga together. And then I started to read about Ayurveda, like somehow, because they're connected. You see, yoga and Ayurveda are two sister sciences. They have the same roots, right? And so I came across Ayurveda. I started reading it. I said, okay, this herb and this herb is good for me. I purchased them and I started taking them. I also went to see an acupuncturist. And I think it's 6 months later, after all this, that I got pregnant. And basically my daughter healed me, because of course, during the pregnancy, your period stops. So there's no more physical, cause for that tissue to form in the body. And so I was healed after, and ever since. I actually went 6 months ago to do a check again, and it's all gone and never came back. However, I think it never came back because I also just dived into this universe. I understood why, as Kate said, it was a previous relationship and some other things that were in there. And so to answer your question, Ayurveda means the science of life. Okay. So that's why I loved it. And the moment I got to be in touch with it and I started to read it, there was something that vibrating within me. I just couldn't stop reading and I couldn't stop learning. And I wanted to practice this. There was something, and I'm a now to talk in Ayurvedic terms, I'm a Vata person. And I've always been like very excited and very doubtful about things, you know, like it was hard for me to take decisions back then, the time when I was in my 20s and 30s. But this thing was very, very clear to me. Actually, it's the first time I think I experienced that much determination and clarity, but not determination since I wanted that. It was, I wanted it like you want to meet with a lover, that type of thing. So much attraction towards this discipline was almost magnetical, you know.
Wow.
And so I started to read about it. I did the class on correspondence that was not online at that time with Dr. David Frawley, and I recommend everybody who wants to learn more about Ayurveda to start reading his books because they're phenomenal. And then I went to Brazil where I had my training, and my daughter was I don't know how old was she. She was probably 1 year old. I left my daughter for a few weeks. I was missing her like crazy, but I had to do that. Wow. It was stronger than me. And so Ayurveda basically works with the elements and it looks at the person and sees how the elements are combined. We're all different. And this is what I like about Ayurveda. And this is why I think it's an expression of the truth, because there is no therapy apart from NLP, which works with the laws of the mind. I think there is no therapy that applies to everybody. And I like to look at the person and see their unicity, to see how they are a unique mix of all these elements, their unique mix of matter and consciousness, and how their problems manifest through this, I don't know, this little fragment of matter. So basically Ayurveda aims to basically work with the elements and create the balance of these elements. You can have too much water, you can have too much fire, you can have too much wind. And basically these elements being in excess create all sorts of physical, mental, and emotional problems. By recreating the balance, we get back to a state of health.
And
so,
how do you do that? How do you work out if you've got too much? How do you know if you're fiery or watery or air?
Well, it's your body that shows it. It shows in the body. Your body is like a map that is showing. You see, we have our body is made of these elements. You know, you have the solid elements of your body, like the bones, are made of the earth, right?
I see.
All the fluids in your body are the water. Everything like the plasma and the saliva and the mucus. All these fluids of the body are the water. Then you have the fire, which is this, the bile, the acidic secretions of the body, and the metabolism. Then you have the air, which is the air that we're breathing, and all this, if you want, this electricity that passes through your nervous system. All these impulses, nervous impulses is energy, right? This is air. Yeah, and then you have the space, which is this inner space, and the mind space. So, and it's actually, when you look at the body, you can see it also how these elements are being distributed in the body on different parts. And of course, it goes from the most solid, which is between your feet and your knees. This is where you have the earth showing. Of course, you have them all over the body, but this is where they show. So if you, for instance, if you have solid, very solid calves, you have lots of earth. On the contrary, if you don't have enough, if they're very, very thin, it shows that you're lacking earth, right? Then from the knees up to the hips, to the buttocks, you have the water element. So the larger hips you have and the larger thighs you have, the more water you have in your body. And of course, if you're very thin and skinny, you lack this element in your body. Okay.
Wow.
And then the fire is here in the area of the digestive system is, right, stomach and navel. The air corresponds to this part of the body where you're breathing, the lungs. So again, here, the chest for women and for men as well. The tiniest the chest is, because that could be for men and women, this small, tiny body, upper body shows lots of wind, lots of vata. On the opposite, if you have a larger and generous breast for men and women as well, this chest part, it shows there's lots of water, and so on and so forth. So just by looking at a person, you can actually see what and how these elements are distributed and which one is predominant. And the thing is, when you are, is the two cells of the body at the moment of the reproduction, these two particular cells, of course, we know that genetics, right? But they also contain the information of the doshas, of these elements that are actually, that we work with in Ayurveda. So the two cells of your parents combined at the moment of conception and give you a certain tendency to have either too much water, too much wind, or too much fire, or vata, pitta, and kapha. So your constitution comes just like you rent a vehicle, a second-hand vehicle. It's never perfect. It comes as it is with the heritage. You have the ears of your grandmother and the eyebrows of your great-great-grandfather, whatever, and then you were there. That's your mix.
How do you change these different elements then? Was it using NLP, or is it going back, or is it using subconscious mind? How is it changed?
Well, the change in the constitution does not change. So if you're vata, you'll always be a vata. If you're a kapha, you'll always be a kapha. Constitution does not change, but you can bring this constitution from a very imbalanced state into a balanced state. And how do we do that? Is through the food. The food is the most important thing, because you have food that increases fire, food that increases water, and food that increases wind.
Wow.
So you are using all this, like everything that you can drink or eat, or herbs and supplements, they are meant to reduce those excessive doshas. That at the physical level. At the emotional level and mind level, like you asked, I'm using a lot NLP because this is a very powerful aspect in this work that I do. And it's unique because I didn't hear of too many Ayurvedic people doing NLP and vice versa. It's because I like to work, because you see in Ayurveda, the thing is that the main law is that opposites are neutralizing each other. If it's too much heat, we apply cold, right? And we do that all the time. If it's too much dryness, we need to hydrate, right? We always do that naturally. Yeah. When we are, too cold, we warm up with a hot tea. That's basically the principle, the main rule in Ayurveda. Opposites are neutralizing each other. So when, let's say, you have anxiety as a vata person, as a wind person, because the body is tiny and because there's lots of electricity going through the nervous system, you're always going to be a little bit more anxious, a little bit more agitated than the other doshas, okay? So what I do, I work with the body, with the food they need to take, and herbs that they need to take to calm down the nervous system and to solidify the nerves. But I also work with NLP by creating images that are opposing this nervosity. Clever. So we increase the quality of courage, feeling grounded, feeling protected, and seeing oneself as a powerful person. Because why is the anxiety there? For two reasons. You see yourself as powerless, and then you see the world as a dangerous place. So I'm working with these two concepts. What's the image of myself, and what is the image that I have of the world? And it's absolutely incredible and unbelievable. I was working with a person that has lots of water, like kapha, and all the images she was giving me when I was working with her with NLP was water. So we worked with all these water images. From a big solid block of ice that she was seeing herself, we made it into a beautiful and fluid stream. So I don't know if that answers the questions. There's lots of things. I can talk for hours. I've been working on a course on Ayurveda for 4 modules, and I don't know how many hours I have to explain it. But basically, this is it. We work with the elements, and the secret is to bring the balance. Yeah.
This is interesting. Do you know, we're going to have to do a part 2 of this, because it's been because I want to do a deep dive into so Linda, you do Emotrance. And Kate, you do Neurographica. These are 2 things that I've never heard of. And also Kate and Susie, you do Access Consciousness as well. And EFT, Linda and Susie, you do EFT. And I want to learn what is this. So, and it's been an hour or pretty much.
We can do a part 2, actually. We should do a part 2.
I think we need to, because there's so much to learn. This is fascinating me.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What do you reckon, girls? Isn't that amazing? Did you know about the Ayurveda, what it did, or did you know about it? Kate?
Yeah, I knew a little bit about it.
Yeah,
I knew a
I
little bit about it.
again because I'm interested in anything that works. And so although I've only trained in certain things, I've actually researched and read books and stuff on all sorts of so many other things, because I'm kind of like this thirst for knowledge and how else, because not everything works for everybody in the way that you just one way. Like NLP is great, but there are limits to it. So it's, I've added on so many other things, so that my sessions include 30 years of learning and I don't know how many books here, hundreds of books of things that I've read over the years, and now there's so many online courses you can do and everything else. So I've learned so many other things that, and we've all done the same, haven't we? We add in like EFT. I haven't got a certificate in EFT, but I've learned at EFT. I've used it for myself. I use it with others, but it's like we bring in what's needed for that client, that specific client, and what they need in that very moment. And that's what we're always doing. And if I was to sort of finish that, I would say that if someone's looking for somebody, a therapist, then they don't just assume that NLP is the same with everyone, because we all do it differently, all of us, all four of us. And so it's not just about the technique, it's the person. Do you like that person? Does that person, and do you gel with them? And if you don't, then don't work with them. Find someone that you do work with. And it doesn't matter what qualifications they have. Is like, what do they, yes, obviously they need to be somebody that's trained properly and are professionals and have insurance and everything else, that's important. But also making sure that you get on with them, you feel safe with them, because if you're not safe, you don't feel safe, then you are not going to be able to, your subconscious will not open up. You won't get into any deep stuff. You can talk forever, but you won't actually get anything changing because your nervous system won't feel safe with them. So do you feel safe? Has that person, like sometimes I would also say, have they been through what you're going through? Because they know, they get you at a very deeper level. If it's just somebody that's done all these, been to university and done psychiatry and whatever, but they've never actually suffered in their life, then you've got to say, well, how can you help me? So to me, I would want somebody that's actually been through and got through the other side. And so I would also mention that as well. I think that's important.
Yeah, exactly. It's like having a midwife who's never had a baby. Yeah, get out.
Oh, no, do you know what? That's you guys.
Me, I want to add just one more thing. I think in terms of, does it work or not? As I said, the first thing for me is it a valid and truthful path?
Yeah.
And to me, Ayurveda was valid because I'm thinking, and it's not, Ayurveda is not just this, like, okay, let's positive thinking and it's a science. If you read through the Ayurvedic books, for each type of disease, they give the exact type of herbs, how many, for how many days. It's very precise. It's not just, and it's been there for thousands of years. And what was valid 10,000 years ago is still valid today. So to me, that passes, if you want, a certain test. It's not that I don't trust modern medicine. I trust it in many, many ways, but it lacks this consistency and mostly the disconnection from the divinity. And in Ayurveda, the very first paragraph of each Ayurveda book, it says like this: the main cause of our suffering is the separation from our true self. So it all reduces to that. Every other layers that you're going to go through layers, and you're going to fix this layer and you're going to say, oh, it works, it feels good. But then there's another thing shows up and another thing shows up until you reach the true self. And when you are in connection with the true self, then is the true healing. This is what Ayurveda says. But then we have this truthfulness of the discipline, but also there's the free will. So is these two things, I think these two elements that will bring forth a real healing, a true healing, and also I can say that it works. If you don't feel for it, if you didn't go through enough suffering, enough pain for you to move your little bum to do it, then it won't work. So nobody will impose and nobody will force healing upon you.
No,
so I think
elements. I think that's the most important thing, and to round everything up today, because we will do a part 2, and I want to explore those other therapies. I'm fascinated. I'm flipping fascinated, and it all makes sense now, because it was just a word before, and you used to talk, and I'd be like mesmerised by what you'd said, but I never really understood it, and now I get it. I get it, Susie. So this is incredible, and I want to know about these other things. So, we're going to do part 2. I think that's
next week.
Yeah, please. Hopefully everyone can be there, because I need everybody's amazing knowledge. But what's important to sign off with this session is, firstly, come next week and check out the other therapies so you can hear what this all is. What is it? It's not mystery, and it becomes knowledge. Knowledge is power. And secondly, before you do any kind of a therapy, you have to want to make the change. You have to be willing to do the work, because all of the therapies that we do will not work if you don't want it to work. Like the hypnotherapy, if you don't want to be hypnotized, you won't be hypnotized. And, you have to be ready and willing to let go and just trust that it is going to work, and do the work needed, right? Sorry, Linda, go on.
Yes, there is one exception to that, and
Go
that
ahead.
is energy work.
Oh,
Yeah.
EFT and emotrance do not need the agreement of your mind.
interesting. Yeah,
And that's why I still use them.
Amazing, Linda. See, I don't know.
Consciousness is part of this, is an aspect of that. I'm going to talk
Amazing.
about it next time.
And I will learn about that next time, because I don't know. I haven't learned EFT or emotrance. I haven't learned them, so I'm going to. I'm going to learn next week. I'm too excited for it. So on that note, everybody, share this for whoever you feel may get benefit from it, because I flipping learned so much today, which is just incredible, and I love these sessions. And secondly, make sure you tune into our podcast. I'm going to be releasing the is it an advert, I suppose, of the promo later today. So if you see it, share it and let people know that we're coming out on the 28th, and then other people can get benefit out of it. And it really sets my soul on fire, just knowing that what we're going to be doing, that what we do is really helping people, to feel better. And that is what the goal is, just feeling better. So on that note, I'm going to sign off. Like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you next week.